We just got a brand new Ahsoka trailer yesterday, and it's hard for me to contain my excitement for this series. Ahsoka has been one of my favorite characters for a while now, so her introduction to live action and then the announcement of her own series already had me beyond excited for the future of this character. But, unpopular opinion here, as someone whose favorite Star Wars series is Star Wars Rebels, the more we see of this series, the more I look forward to it, as it essentially serves as a Rebels Season 5, following many of the same characters from that show and continuing in part where that show left off, with Ezra sacrificing himself to defeat Thrawn and Sabine staying on Lothal. Now, this trailer gives us a lot of new footage and information regarding the characters, the story, and the time period of the show. The new trailer kicks off with an unknown ship approaching a lone New Republic cruiser in the middle of space, and we later learn that this unknown ship belongs to Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, two of the brand new villains created for this series. We don't know what's led up to this confrontation between the New Republic and whatever these warriors are, and we don't know why they're interested in this cruiser, but they leave a trail of dead bodies behind them. We see them in the hangar, with their ship behind them, some X-Wings in the background, as Shin Hati slices down a Mon Calamari officer in front of her. There are then a few other scenes that look to take place on the same New Republic cruiser. Baylan Skoll gets his own hallway scene, using his lightsaber to deflect blaster bolts and the Force to throw enemies back. As the voiceover from Skoll ends, we get to see him actually deliver a line of dialogue on screen, and I'm just so excited to see and get to know these two characters. The actors look like they've done an incredible job with them, and there is so much mystery surrounding them that I can't wait to just see more of their scenes when the series premieres and learn more about them. The focus then goes to Ahsoka, and while we get her voiceover about hearing about Thrawn's return, we get a shot at what looks to be some ancient stone markings that I assume are on the same planet we saw in the first trailer. Based on how much we've seen of that planet, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we open the first episode up. We've already got a decent amount of footage of Ahsoka there, and I feel like Star Wars shows are good about only using footage from the first few episodes in the trailers, so I wouldn't be surprised if much of this footage comes from the first two episodes anyways. The stone markings here interest me a lot. I don't exactly have any theories off the top of my head. The hand up reminds me of the Mortis gods and the art of them on Lothal. The face itself reminds me of the Force priestesses from the Clone Wars Season 6 arc with Yoda, so whatever this place is, it probably has some special connection to the Force. We get a new series of clips following this, and there's so much here that it's hard for me to wrap my head around. With their ship behind them, Skoll and Hati approach some ancient stone site, and I've seen many theories about what this place is. It looks very similar to the save points in the Star Wars Jedi games, where Cal meditates and rests. I'm not caught up on those games yet, so I don't know if there's any information from those games that would help us with that, and I don't really have much to say about that one. The overall design looks very similar to the Tython ruins we saw in The Mandalorian Season 2. That was a location strong on the light side of the Force, and because this is a much darker place, I think it's a safe bet that wherever this is, it's a planet or place strong on the dark side. I've also seen it compared to Malachor from the Knights of the Old Republic game, where the player fights Darth Krayt. It would make sense for the series to return to Malachor, as it not only has a strong presence in the dark side, but it's also the planet where Ahsoka was stranded after her duel with Vader and somehow escaped. She was saved from Vader in the collapsing Sith Temple by Ezra using the World Between Worlds, but we haven't learned yet how she made her way off planet, so going back to Malachor would give us an opportunity to fill in that part of her story, and also, I think it's just a really neat planet from the little we got of it in Star Wars Rebels. The scene continues, and we learn that Skoll and Hati are working with, or for, Morgan Elsbeth as they search for Thrawn. I'm also really interested as to what the holographic thing is that Elsbeth expands. It looks to be like a gigantic map, but there may be something that I'm missing there. We get another clip of Hati on what's likely the same New Republic cruiser from earlier, and then the focus shifts to Hera and the New Republic. We get a quick look at a pretty large fleet of ships. There are some A-Wings in there, some blockade runners, and then a few designs that I don't particularly recognize. We get some lines from Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera Syndulla, as she pleads to some of the senators to help her prevent another war with Thrawn and the remnants of the Empire. This is something that I haven't thought of much, but if this turns out to be a big side of the story in the Ahsoka series, then I'm looking forward to it. We've barely gotten to see the New Republic on screen. A little more now thanks to The Mandalorian, but even then it's mostly X-Wing pilots in the Outer Rim. This looks like it'll spend some time with the main government and some of the senators. There was a lot of peaceful demilitarization of the New Republic after the Battle of Jedha, and Mon Mothma was a major voice in that, so I'm interested to see what they do with the character here. We then see Hera meeting up with Ahsoka and Huyang as they descend their T6 shuttle in the Republic hangar. I'm interested to see how Huyang is brought into this story, because unless he was in a comic that I'm unaware of, we haven't seen him since the Clone Wars, so I wonder how he and Ahsoka reconnected after all this time. Sabine then gets brought into the mix, and these next few clips tell us a lot about what the timeline looks like here, and how some of these scenes are arranged. Hera indirectly references Anakin, and Ahsoka mentions how she walked away from him when she left the Jedi Order, just like she walked away from Sabine. First thing, I really hope we get to see Anakin here. Of course I want it to be done right, not to feel forced or overused, but having Ahsoka reconnect with Anakin as a Force ghost, if done right, could be such an emotional moment for fans, and if it's the first interaction between them since their duel on Malachor, it would be such a big character moment for Ahsoka too. I know there have been rumors of Hayden returning, but it's been fairly quiet for almost a year now, so I don't know what the odds are that he's actually in it. So then Ahsoka mentions that she walked away from Sabine too, so what it seems like happened is that Ahsoka approached Sabine on Lothal sometime before the Rebels epilogue, maybe when the war was still going on, and Sabine refused to leave. Ahsoka mentions that she's still as stubborn as ever, and we know from the Rebels epilogue that Sabine thought that Ezra was counting on her to protect Lothal from the Empire if they ever returned. So it would make sense for her to ignore Ahsoka and do what she felt Ezra wanted her to do. But then later on in the trailer, we get a short clip of Ahsoka and Sabine back on Lothal in front of the mural. This time Sabine has her short hair, which is likely the live-action recreation of the Rebels epilogue. So what do we take from all this? It looks like the Rebels epilogue will be fit into the series somewhere in the middle, or at least after a time jump from when Ahsoka first arrives on Lothal. There's also a lot of other things mixed into this part of the trailer. Something that was included in the Celebration exclusive trailer, but not in the public one, was the moment of Sabine on her speeder bike, driving down the highway on Lothal. There's an E-Wing following her that we then see parked in her way, that she slides under, so we don't know who's piloting this, but they want something to do with Sabine. The droid that pops its head out of the ship is also a nod to the vintage Kenner R2-D2 toy. I also just really love the way everything with the speeder is shot. I doubt it'll be a long scene in the series, but it is one that I'm very much looking forward to. There's then a short moment between Ahsoka and Sabine with a hologram layout between them, where Sabine refers to Ahsoka as Master. While she may not have the Force, Sabine has Ezra's lightsaber, which we know she'll wield in the series at some point. So Ahsoka may have been continuing the training that Kanan began with her, teaching her how to wield a lightsaber. This is followed up by the moments of Sabine sitting in front of a hologram of Ezra, except now we get a little more from the scene. The hologram video plays, giving us an idea of what Ezra will sound like in live action, and then we get the moment where Sabine cuts her hair, in a moment very reminiscent of Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels, a nod that I really love. This is really going to be like a Star Wars Rebels Season 5, and I'm all here for it. We've seen it in plenty of other footage, but Sabine really is going to be an integral part of the story. It's the Ahsoka series, and I'm sure she'll have her own character moments where she's off by herself, but I cannot wait to see Ahsoka and Sabine teaming up. There's a lot to both of these characters on their own, and it looks like they may have a very complicated relationship that we may have missed part of, but just thinking back to Season 1 of Rebels, where Sabine was obsessed with finding out who this Fulcrum was, and then to think about where we are now with these characters, I just can't wait for the series to premiere. We get a few other clips of Sabine, her in front of the Lothal mural, her in the T6 gunner's chair, Ahsoka and Sabine flying past a Purrgil in the T6, which was something included in the Celebration exclusive back in April. Fans get their first good look at Lars Mikkelsen as Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I must say, it's nice to see some of these clips in normal quality, rather than a grainy, tilted, half-covered video from the Celebration panel. We've already seen Sabine and Hati engaging in lightsaber combat a few times, but on a planet that looks very similar to Corvus, we see Sabine attempting to use the Force. I wonder if Ahsoka actually has been training her to use the Force, and not just a lightsaber. I don't know what I'd think of them taking the character in that direction after all of Rebels, but we'll just have to wait and see if that's what this is. We get more of the confrontation between Ahsoka and Skull, which looks to be in the ancient stone ruins from before, and Skull mentions Anakin by name. I think it would be great if he knew Anakin personally. It would add a whole other layer into the moment between these characters, and it wouldn't surprise me from a Jedi as old as him, who was present during the Republic and the fall of the Jedi Order, would know who Anakin was and possibly talk with him. Or, depending on Skull's past and what it looks like, and when he turned to the dark side, maybe he spoke with Vader and not Anakin. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the warrior in the mask. The final scene with their lightsabers spinning as Ahsoka stands there waiting to attack. I feel like it's focusing on this person so much that it has to be someone we know. Some shots have made it seem like it's Shin Hati in a mask, but I really think there are two possibilities here. The popular one is obviously Barriss Offee. We haven't picked up with her since she framed Ahsoka in the Clone Wars arc, and this would be the perfect place to bring her back into the story and fill in some gaps. The other one though that I think is possible is that it's Ezra, although I don't particularly love this option. We haven't seen him beyond the one hologram, although we have seen Thrawn, and the two of them went wherever together, so if Thrawn's in this series, Ezra should be too. We already saw Ezra grow through his temptation of the dark side, but maybe spending so much time with Thrawn bent his ideals a bit. Again, not the option I like, but I feel like there's only two here that make a bunch of sense given how much this character in the mask has been focused on. It was also announced with the release of this trailer that Ahsoka will have a 2-episode premiere on August 23rd, meaning that the finale will premiere on Disney Plus on October 4th now. And a brand new poster was also revealed for the series that shows Ahsoka in a similar stance to her master, Anakin Skywalker. How excited are you for the Ahsoka series? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more Ahsoka coverage. And remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.